Let me say, first of all, when I get a chance to be with both Mike Gallagher and Roger Hitchcock at the same time, I really feel like talk radio is having an impact. So I'm delighted to be here with both you guys. And I want to thank all of you for coming out today. And in a sense, I can't imagine a more fitting place when you look across at one of the great ships that has enabled America to remain free and enabled us to try to extend freedom around the planet. And you are reminded that what this election is all about is one of the most fundamental choices in American history, both in Sacramento and in Washington. Because in many ways we're faced with a very similar problem, both in Sacramento and in Washington. You have a party which believes in bigger and bigger and bigger government, a party which believes in higher and higher and higher taxes, and as a result, they are killing more and more jobs. Now, I have a very simple model for all of you. Job-killing policies kill jobs. I know it's only 5 words. We're trying to figure out whether Vice President Biden could get all the way through this. And I have to say, I noticed this lady over here who's wearing the Fire Pelosi sign, or the Fire Pelosi shirt. You know, everywhere I go, people keep saying things about Speaker Pelosi that aren't positive and they're not kind. And I've decided we should find a happy phrase, a word which will, where we can say her name and we can feel okay. And so I thought, let's practice the term goodbye. Do you see how positive and happy that made you? I've been having a debate with her about jobs, and I think it's the perfect example of why California has almost 20% underemployment, unemployment, and people have given up. It's why the whole country is in the longest, deepest unemployment since the Great Depression. And it goes back to this initial principle that job-killing policies kill jobs. And I said, so it makes perfect sense if you look at Pelosi and Reid, who've been in charge for 4 years, and you look at the radicalism of Obama, that we now have had the longest period of above 9% unemployment since the Great Depression. And the result is, in June and July, more Americans were forced to take food stamps than any point in American history. Not because they wanted them, but because their jobs had been killed. And so I said, maybe it would be fair to say that this election and the next election are really about a very straightforward concept. A job-killing party, when they kill jobs, force people onto food stamps, and now we know that Obama's idea of redistribution is after you lose your job, he will give you food stamps. And so they should be, the Democrats should be the food stamp party. Now, the challenge for the Republicans is to remember what Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher taught us, and that is to say, here are the policies that create jobs. We want to create jobs so you can have a paycheck. And the mission of the Republican Party should become the paycheck party, trying to make sure that we have full employment of good jobs so every American has a chance to work and every American has a chance to have take-home pay. Now, in that setting, if you take that model and you look at how that works, you could run a campaign of the food stamp party versus the paycheck party, and you would clearly have a choice. And I will bet you there is not a precinct in San Diego County where if you went down door to door, or you went and stood in front of the local grocery store on Saturday, and you said to people, would you rather that your children have a chance to have a paycheck or food stamps, that over 80% would say paycheck. Now, when I began developing that as part of our jobs program at American Solutions, Nancy Pelosi was asked about it, and she said, well, Newt always wants to attack the poor. And I said, no, no. What I'm attacking is policies that make us poor. She then came back and she said, I want you to listen carefully to this because it's hard to believe. That's right, you're in California. This will all make sense. She came back and she said she had talked to an economist who said that food stamps were the best way to stimulate the economy because for every dollar of food stamps, you got $1.79 of economic activity. And so I was on Greta or Sean or something, and he said, what do you think about this new formula? And I said, well, if this is Pelosi-nomics, that her model means if we could get the Chinese to loan us enough money, we could put every American on food stamps. And since we make back $1.79 for every dollar, we could pay off the national debt off the money we made off of food stamps. Now, I have to share with all of you. You have to live in San Francisco to believe stuff like this. I mean, there's no place out, even at Harvard, you could not get away with this. Now, we've developed a bumper sticker at American Solutions that is sort of our first step towards getting the country back to thinking in common sense, practical ways. It's a little bold, and it's a little out on the edge, so I hope you'll bear with me for a minute. But it's 2 + 2 = 4. Now, I like this for several reasons. First of all, if you go to your neighbors and you ask them whether or not they agree with this, the ones you run into who don't turn them out to vote. They ain't us. Part of what I like about this is that there's no situation ethics involved. It's not 2 + 2 = 4 unless you had a bad childhood, or 2 + 2 = 4 unless you're unhappy. I mean, it's a hard-edged, straightforward 2 + 2 = 4. Now, why does that matter? Because we have had a period of government where the politicians think they can make 2 + 2 mean anything they want it to. And so they say, well, you know, we can go out there and borrow $787 billion for a stimulus because it makes us feel better. And you shouldn't count that as part of the national debt because of all the good things it's going to do. And they go out and they say, well, we can have $1 trillion health program that scares every small business in the country, but that won't stop them from creating jobs. Because why would you think that small businesses actually look at the law before they decide whether or not they can afford to hire somebody? And you just go down this list and you begin to realize that what you have today, not just the president, but an entire system of thought that is so dedicated to living in a fantasy world that it is devastating to the American economy, and we are all living the experience. I had this experience with my 2 daughters when they were in, I don't know how many of you ever had this experience, but when they were in college, and they're about 3 years apart, they each got, about their junior year, a free credit card. And they thought it was terrific. And then about 3 months after they got the credit card, this thing came in the mail. And it turned out that when you charge things, they wanted you to pay it. Now, it's one thing if that's what happens when you're a sophomore or junior in college. It's another thing if you're the President of the United States and your credit card runs up $1 trillion at a time. And that's why this election is so important. Let me close with 3 quick things. One, I really want to ask each and every one of you to make sure you vote. We have a project called The Power of 10. You can go to 10millionvoters.com and you'll see what we're working on. It's a software system designed to make it easier for you to keep track of what you're doing. If you go to 10millionvoters.com, it'll help you turn out votes. If every person here today would turn out 10 additional votes of people who vote in presidential years but don't usually vote in an off-year election, you would decisively change the whole outcome this fall. And turnout is everything in an off-year election. In 1994, with the contract with America, we had a 9 million vote increase over 1990, the largest one-party increase in American history. We can do it again if every person who's concerned about America and every person who's upset about the unemployment situation simply turns out to vote. So when people start to gripe, ask them, have you voted? Second, all of you between Facebook, Twitter, your email list, and your cell phone list have an amazing number of people you personally can turn out to vote. So I hope you'll go home for a day and say we're hanging out together, and that you want people to remind everybody, whether they're your Facebook friends or your Twitter followers or they're your email list, you want to remind them to go vote, because you can make that big a difference. We're working very hard at American Solutions on a number of ideas designed to get us back to work, designed to make us safe, and designed to give younger Americans a better future. I want to pick up on something that Mike said to you a few minutes ago. If you get a chance, if you could go to your cell phone and pledge at 95495. 95495. We'd love to have your help. It's as easy as just going to your cell phone, putting in pledge 95495. Really would love your help. Finally, I can't think of a city in America that this is more appropriate to remind you about this reality. The young men who risked their lives in that ship, the young men and women who have gone through this city for generations, whether it was to train to go to the Pacific in World War II, to train for Korea, to train for Vietnam, today to train for Afghanistan or Iraq. For generations, Americans have paid for the right to be free. All we're asking of you is to go out of your way to vote. When one of your friends says to you, well, I don't get involved in politics, tell them, then you're not being a good citizen. These young Americans don't risk their lives for you to sit around and gripe. They sit around and they risk their lives so you will be a good citizen and you will help shape the country's future. And if you do that, we will win in 12 days. Thank you, good luck, and God bless you.
Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich. Now, I've noticed two things so far about this assembly that I want to share with you. First of all, we have a very special message from Alaska later on in the program, so stay with us now. But two things that I've noticed. Number one, our politicians don't need the idiot boards. I didn't see a teleprompter in sight.